Hi, I'm Tim, and this is RAS Class. So first of all is gaskets, right? Man-ways and handhole gaskets, sometimes they just go out. And when they start leaking, you have to bring the boiler down and put in the new gasket, seal it up, come back up. Not a huge deal if you've got a gasket sitting there, but if you don't, well then you're really kind of in a panic or in a pickle. The next would be gauge glasses. So sometimes gauge glass splits or wears out. Having the ability to swap that gauge glass yourself, first of all, requires that somebody knows how to do it safely because it can be quite dangerous if you don't do it appropriately. But then you have to have the parts on hand. Believe it or not, I've been to boiler rooms where they said, yeah, we don't have any gauge glass, and they were running two very large 1,000 horsepower boilers with no gauge glasses in service, right? That's extremely dangerous, not recommended by anybody. But it's a really good idea to have a spare of all of the switches and relays and controls that if that switch or relay goes bad, your boiler can't fire. So look at everything that's in that boiler control panel, right? You've got your level cutout switch and your auxiliary low water cutout switch. You've got your flame scanner, all the pressure switches on the gas line, any like furnace pressure switches, your high steam pressure switch. You probably are also going to want a spare pressure transducer for your boiler firing rate controller. So all of these things you really are going to have on hand. And if bonus points, if you just get them from your boiler technician, have them preset to the same setting that your boiler has on it, and then mark them, label them, and put them on the shelf. That way, if that switch goes bad or you're not there, and if the technician isn't there and you suspect that switch is bad, you can swap it out and bring the boiler back online. So having those switches and devices on hand is critical, but they don't do you a lot of good if you still have to call somebody back out to reset them. So if you have them preset, then you can go ahead and get those installed yourself if you're qualified and comfortable. The next would be spare actuators, right? So if we do have a parallel positioning system, or fully metered, whatever, doesn't matter. But if we have a modulating system, having an actuator on standby so that if yours goes bad, you can swap it out, that makes a huge difference. Otherwise, we're down while we wait for parts. We can't run without the actuators. And if we can, if we have multiple boilers and we can standardize those actuators, we don't really need that many spares, but we do need some spares, right? Otherwise, we're going to end up in a desperate situation. The other thing I would say is valve rebuild kits. So there are some critical valves, like maybe the gas control valve, where if that valve has packing blowout or something go wrong with it, you really can't run. So having a rebuild kit for that is a really good idea. So when we get into larger sizes of valves and actuators and things of that nature, then sometimes we'll stock the rebuild kit instead of the full assembly. That's okay too, but have those things handy. Walk around the room and say, how many parts in this room will shut this plant down and cost however many thousands of dollars an hour? And then making a plan for how are we going to get those things, right? And then the last is, if you've got a large plant with a really high cost of downtime, you should consider putting a whole spare controller on the shelf, whether it's a touchscreen or whether it's just an integrated controller. It's not a bad idea to just have a full spare on the shelf. Because if you have to call and overnight it from somewhere, you're going to be down 12, 24 hours to get that done. And then you're going to need a technician to come out and get that installed and up and running. Some of these units, though, you can have a spare controller preloaded with all of the settings from the running controller on the shelf. And you can plug it into that socket and bring that boiler back online. And so it can be a really smart idea, especially if you're a long ways from your service provider and not near a big metropolitan area where you can get service in a hurry. Put a full spare controller on the shelf and preload it with that program, and that can help save a lot of downtime as well. If you have any other ideas, please put them in the comments or shoot us an email, and we appreciate it. Thanks.